Ending June 5th, 2024. We have about 24 minutes to the close. Quick rant here. Talk about the markets, which are nearing, well, going to close at record highs, S&P and NASDAQ. Some of the names I entered, some updates on others. But first, look at the S&P and just up 1% or over 1% today. And uh, 4 sessions in a row to the upside. We'll see what happens tomorrow, and then with the jobs report on Friday. I thought some chop between 325, 331. We broke through 331. It's been a melt up ever since. We got through 331 about 11 o'clock. So strong. It's funny, you start looking at some of the media outlets, and the first it says, here's what's happened in 9 major bubbles in the last 100 years. So already here come all the negative, bearish, fear-mongering tweets that come out typically when markets are at highs, because folks don't click headlines that say stocks are going to melt higher for the next 30 years. No, they click the headlines that say, here, we're going to crash in the next 30 days or 6 months. Click here for more information. That's just how it works. But 331 was support. Well, excuse me, 531 on the SPY I thought was support resistance. We broke through that. So if we get a little chop tomorrow, maybe that provides some support, and then it's blue skies. Maybe 540 or so, and that'll revisit for a possible short-term pullback on a SPY, and the jobs report on Friday. That'll be the next big data piece. So some of the names, Spotify ran up at the open this morning all the way over 330, 331 or so. Locked in the rest, well, not the rest, most of my other strikes. I didn't have too much, but nearly for about over 300%. I held the rest. Here it is at 324. Still hopeful, still have some time. Not sure I'm going to revisit next week's strikes either. I'll just wait for those to play out, whether those go back into money or expire. I'll just continue to hold those kind of as an upside hedge. That's Spotify. Take a look at GPCR. So, it obviously the big data reversed from, I think it was 34 and change at the open all the way up into the 50s. Then yesterday, still held the gains, and then today, similar story. Not doing much, not too much volume either, in relative to what it had on Monday, but still sitting here at 55.44. At some point, I look for some other strikes, but I still have, and I added the VKTX calls earlier today. Still have the June hundreds, and then TERN, and I'll talk about TERN in a second. So have a lot of exposure in the GLP-1 space. So I'll continue to hold those last few June 55s, and that once I do lock those in, I'll get some later dated strikes. So that's GPCR. VKTX, I talked about the last 2 days, especially after a Nash data. I don't think that's baked in whatsoever. Still continue to have analysts out with their bullish commentary. I posted those Jeffries notes from yesterday afternoon and then this morning in regards to its performance. It seems like, I guess, folks use the news to sell or at least take profits. I still don't get it, and a couple weeks before the Nash, I was looking to get weekly strikes on top of my monthlies just to play for a move, especially into a weekend where we might have some M&A. So I'll continue to do that. I did some $70 strikes earlier. Has have more time, and I would like to get July's, but they're kind of pricey. I think it's going to go higher regardless. And you take a look at, lower Bollinger Bands, 53.75. It came down there yesterday. So I, I'm still surprised it's still down here. And you have to think at some point, some of these big pharma companies are going to, they have a huge cash hoard. We're going to start looking at a name like VKTX. And I keep saying it's best in class in regards to its GLP-1 drugs, best in class now with Nash. So not much to add there on VKTX. So TERN. So TERN it's been frustrating. So every time it hits $7, it seems to have faded. Start of April, hit 7, faded all the way down. It hit 450 in the middle of April. Started to bounce. May started about 550, and then it started its melt to $7, right? So it hit 7, reversed course on Friday from 7. I think it hit 580, and then churned around. And you thought maybe we'll get some buyers with GPCR news or buyers in regards to what happened with VKTX, and none of that. And then today, out of nowhere, it's up 20%. Well, right now it's up Well, it's up 15%. It's 723 in a matter of 15 minutes. It goes from 723 down to 640. But that's kind of how it's been. It's been very volatile. I used to have a larger short interest than it does now. But I love the name 400. I think it's, let's see what it was, it 463 million dollar market cap. Uh, 200, well, actually it's less than that now because it dropped 6%. 263 million in cash on hand. Large, that's enough runway for it to get through at least 2026. Second half of this year, they'll have oral data. Uh, Gilead, back when I used to be a big Intercept ICPT, which the name was acquired, I used to be a big fan. They did pocket acquisitions. They acquired two NASH names, which never came to, they never bared fruit because the data was horrible. But those were names similar to TERN, couple $100 million valuation. They bought them for 900 million and 1.5 billion. And these companies, especially the large biotech names, it makes sense for them, especially when they don't have exposure. And there's a lot. I got to go back and find that list of all these mega cap names that don't have their hands in this GLP-1 space. But I can go on rants for a while, but real like TERN, at some point it's going to catch fire. It's going to be one of those, FOMO names, fear of missing out. They had that VKTX when it's trading in the $7-8 range. Gosh, I've traded that for a long time. Uh, I'm not saying TERN's going to do the same thing and trade up into the 80s, 90s, and 100, but I do think there's an opportunity for upside. I post on FinTwit in the chat room. I wouldn't be surprised if it trades 12 to 15 before the summer's out. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a buyout for $20 to $25. And on the flip side, I won't be surprised if they sell it off to $5, just because there's such a long time frame before any of their drugs come to market. So that's TERN. DELL, what else to say here about DELL? Hit support for the fourth time, or at least my trend line that I have on the chart. If you look at the watch list, started to bounce all the way up to, it hit one. I think it was 139 and change. I added more strikes. I think, again, I think this is an overreaction. I probably have said this about 10 times already. I can't see DELL doing business that does not generate profits. So for folks to insinuate or speculate that DELL is doing AI servers for zero profit with NVIDIA chips, it just does not make sense to me. And if they are a publicly traded company looking for business that generates no profits, they should not be a publicly traded company. The CEO should be fired, director should be fired, all that fun stuff. So I have to think the margins are substantially higher than what was played out, or at least painted out on the earnings call, and added some more strikes. And I'll continue to look for opportunities there on DELL. I'm trying to think of some of the other names. Align Technologies, all the way up to 257 this morning, right out of the gate. Started at 248, all the way up to 257. Still some hope on those strikes. AI is going to close over 30, which is great, pending any crazy sell-off in the last 16 minutes. Really like that one for upside. And then, I wouldn't say last but not least, but GameStop. And, I post on FinTwit. And back when I did, I added calls on DJT, right? That the SPAC, the Donald Trump SPAC. I'm not here for politics or to say wrong or right against either side. All I know is if the folks who believe in that candidate, they would use DJT as a proxy for his candidacy, saying, and for him as a leader, or whatever you want to call it. Uh, so that was kind of my bull case on DJT, and I made some nice money on the calls. And I'm not saying a similar story here with GameStop, but if you think about what's going on now, and Warren Kitty is under investigation by Massachusetts Attorney General again, or their trade commission, whoever it is, it's almost like they're trying to stick it to the, I would say stick it to the man. The guy made lots of money on GameStop, but I think that's what people are going to construe it as, is here's a person who posted their position on Reddit, which has probably happened thousands upon thousands of times over the last couple of years, but then he does it and they're going to investigate him like he did something wrong. So I'm not going to sit here and you know weigh in on that, but I just think it might be used, GameStop might be used as nothing more than a proxy for sticking it to the man, sticking it to the SEC, sticking it to the government. So don't be surprised if you see me add some speculative calls on GameStop. And that's it, folks. I'll definitely be on the audio tomorrow morning. Let's have a great day. Rock and roll.